In this video, we're going to talk about the layoff situation, right? And what do people do during their layoff time period? Do they transition into long-term unemployment? Do they enjoy their free time off? And the question here is, how would you deal with this type of scenario? Would you treat it similar way as some of the examples we see here? Would you take it a bit more seriously? Would you enjoy your time off? Let's look at how some people are dealing with their layoff.
A day in my life as an unemployed 30-year-old living at home. I always make my bed first thing so I'm not tempted to crawl back in and completely give up. And then, of course, next stop is coffee so I can actually feel something. This is actually the first moment that I realized that Planet Oat Milk is absolutely disgusting. Next is my morning dose of Stoic philosophy, then I'm off to the races at my desk setting up my Notion for the day. I also like to take a moment to reflect on what I'm most grateful for. And lastly, I try to overload myself with tasks so I can still feel like a productive member of society. I jump into an online course that I'm taking and then I decide, how can I best torture myself today? I decide that it's finally time to download DaVinci Resolve and learn how to color grade in it, but then I open up a video and see this and immediately click out. This leaves me feeling a little dejected, so I get in the car and go to Muay Thai class. I always start with a quick workout in the bag and then I put on these sexy Muay Thai goggles for sparring class so I can beat people up in style. On the way home, we grab some Chipotle for dinner and then I'm winding down for the night with the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
So it's kind of an interesting scenario here, right? So firstly, if you're unemployed, I would say you have more than enough time to kind of meal prep your own food. You don't have an income source coming in, so it makes sense not to be buying fast food on a regular basis or, restaurant food, because obviously that's a waste of money. The other thing here is some good things she did was keeping a good routine, not getting lazy, not getting depressed in the morning, which is kind of easy to do because if you're dealing with a layoff, you're unemployed. Lots of people do feel into depression in some sense or the other, even if they don't want to say that they do. Feel kind of a bit worthless. There's lots of imposter syndrome. You think you can't actually do your job, and that's why you basically lost your job when you might have just lost your job for reasons that were completely out of your control, like budget cuts. So if you keep a good routine, a good healthy habits, you mentioned going to work out and do Muay Thai, and this kind of morning and night routine is most important for you, whether you're actually dealing with a layoff, working or even working from home, things like that, just to keep those good lifestyle habits. And I think while you do have that extra time to maybe focus on your health, it makes sense to maybe, like I say, go for the gym, do things like that, because you can't spend every moment of your time just job searching and stressing about your next interview and things like that, right? Other things to focus on would be your mental health, to make sure you're in a good mental space and looking at things positively, because you don't want to come across desperate in job interviews. So that's why it's important to keep all those other good habits, right? And the other thing is, it seems a bit gimmicky. She mentions reading a book about philosophy or Stoic philosophy, and Stoic philosophy is about being detached in a healthy way from your current circumstances and managing them in a kind of unemotional, productive way. So different things like that might sound like a gimmick, but when you are in maybe a long-term unemployment, maybe 6 months into that type of small habits really do help, right? And that's why I recommend anyone out there who's potentially going to be part of a layoff next year, and layoffs will continue next year, it could get quite rough. Try to keep like 2 or 3 key priorities. One of them, of course, would be your job search. The second could be maintaining your health, and the third could be developing skills for a side hustle. Now, I think it's important for the third thing that you're really strategic what you're doing, because a lot of people, they get caught up with all these online courses. Oh, they found one online course, they found 5 different skills they want to develop. Kind of narrow it down. And in her case, she's learning video editing, which is DaVinci Resolve, which is like an alternative to Adobe Premiere Pro. And she's trying to learn that skill to become a better video editor. So that's something I'd encourage you to dedicate some of your time for, because at this point, I hope everyone's kind of come to the realization that, no corporate job is stable. It's only an impression of stability. So as well as looking for your next corporate job, which you might in the back of your mind thinking, even if you get that job offer and you work that job, you could be subject to a layoff later down the line anyway. It's good to be developing a skill that at some point will give you the ability to be self-employed and live life on your own terms. And in her case, that could be becoming a video editor, right?
Month will be officially 1 year since I have been unemployed and got laid off from my agency job. I've networked with barely anybody responding back to me. I've interviewed, got to multiple last rounds, always got the same feedback that they went with somebody with more experience, but I was a great candidate. I've applied to over 1,000 jobs. I've applied to even low-paying jobs. I've applied to internships. I don't know what else to do. I ask questions at the end of the interview. I get to know them. I don't know what else they want from me.
So this is an interesting example, right? I'm not sure if I believe that she applied for 1,000 jobs. Maybe she did. We just take it at face value of what she said, right? So if she's been unemployed for 1 year, she's reaching the final round of interviews, still not getting the job, this case, my advice would be look at different niches close to her current industry to see if she can do something similar or retrain. Because if you're going through those long-term periods of unemployment, there might be some kind of trigger point that's not working out for you. It could be your lack of interview skills, lack of professionalism, your CV, your resume not standing out and demonstrating your skills. So there's lots of little things to clear. And that's why I mentioned when you're going through this unemployment time period, it's important to use that time productively, whether it's developing your own skills, to have a side hustle or something like that, right? And that's what I'd recommend immediately when you're informed about a layoff. I've dealt with layoffs personally before and helped my clients deal with them. What you should do is immediately kind of detach from the company and putting effort into work. Like my effort level goes down. Like for example, I deal with layoffs where you are informed of your layoff and then you can immediately stop working for the company and they just pay you a few months extra pay. You sign the agreement for the layoff, the legal agreement, and then they give you a lump sum of money. But the most difficult layoffs or annoying layoffs is when then they tell you you're going to lose your job and then they say, oh, we need you to work here for another month and a half or something like that. And it's like, do you think I'm going to put a lot of effort in the work? I'm not, right? So the moment you're informed about a layoff, even if you have to keep working for another month or so, just drop your effort levels and your work output levels from like an 8 to a 2 and do the absolute bare minimum. You just need to do the bare minimum to get that layoff package that they've agreed with you, the amount of money. So what you do in that time period is immediately focus on either job hunting or developing your other skills. And that's what I ended up doing, and other people I've seen who've used that time productively end up doing, right? And what's important to do if you're dealing with a layoff or finding a hard time finding your next job is try to identify the core issue. And I know that can be hard because it involves a lot of self-reflection, maybe self-criticism, or just acceptance that it might not be your fault. It might just be the job market is particularly rough for your niche right now. So these are all things to consider. It's to do a lot of self-reflection during that time period of self-employment, of being in a layoff rather than just being upset about it.
Whatever happened to those day in the life working in tech vlogs?
Girl, what you mean? We all getting laid off, boo. Or you're an employee like me who, thank God, I made it through the layoffs, but I'm fucking terrified now having just seen a 10% of my org cut. And yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and do a happy-go-lucky what I do in a day in life of a software engineer. I'm just doing, okay? Because I'm fucking terrified.
So it was quite funny. You might have seen all those viral videos of day in the life of tech employees, typically female employees, where they'd be talking about their day job where they weren't actually doing a lot of work. They were just getting coffees and lattes and breakfast meals and spending time in the nice places of their office buildings, you know, where they have a good view of the whole city from a very high floor of their skyscraper. So all of people who showed that they don't do a lot of work, getting millions of views, they're the type of people who get their job cut. They're the type of people that get reported to their management or HR quietly that they're making the company look bad by showing what little work they do and how much they're getting paid, right? And when it comes to 10% department cuts, I think things like that will become kind of normalized, like I say, over the next few years. I know there's some investment banks, for example, like Goldman Sachs, who have this really weird strategy where they overhire employees, but then every year they identify the bottom 5% employees and fire them, which seems like a bit of a waste of money. Like, you should just hire the best people you can rather than hire people and then fire them on an annual basis. So you're just going to see this kind of normalization of just job cuts and people becoming more and more either terrified, as you mentioned, because they're worried about their job cuts, so they overwork, or people who become detached because they know they can lose their job even if it has nothing to do with them.
I got laid off from my corporate job that I've had for the last 2 years, and I've had a few days to process it now, so let's talk about it. So I worked as a recruiter, and I was one of many people that got laid off, and it was sad because I really did like my job. Like, I loved my team, I liked what I did day to day, so now I'm kind of in this limbo of what do I do next? I mean, most people naturally, they get laid off and they immediately start looking for new jobs. And that's what people keep asking me, like, are you interviewing yet? Do you need like connections? Do you want resume help? Like all that stuff. But hot, kind of controversial take is I am just gonna take some time off. And I know that sounds crazy, but I am 24 years old. I've been saving for literally my whole life, so I'm prepared for this. And I make extra income on the side through TikTok, so it's not like I'm just sitting around doing nothing. And honestly, like, it sounds really selfish, but like, if I have the means to, why not? Like, why not just chill for a few months and see where it takes me? I think Gen Z has really realized that, like, working a corporate job that you're not passionate about for the rest of your life is just really, really depressing. And I feel like I kind of had this opportunity given to me, so I'm just gonna see where it goes, like, take some time to figure out my life. Like, what do I want to do? Like, follow some passions. I don't know. I literally have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out. Point is, right now I'm young. I don't have kids, a house, a mortgage. I don't really have anything depending on me, so right now is probably the best and only time I'll have to do this.
So she's making a fair point, right? People might see it like a reckless decision, and I think I see both perspectives here, right? On one hand, it might seem like a reckless decision where the job market's not doing well. She wants to, I think maybe on one side, she should perhaps aggressively apply for jobs and try to find the next income source. But also, this is a case of someone who did pre-prepare in the sense that she does have side income. She mentions from TikTok. Doesn't mention how much, but at least she has other income sources, right? And many other people who might have been so focused on their job, they didn't build anything on the side. So when they are facing a layoff, they're aggressively trying to find another opportunity. So her approach, just reading in between the lines here, of being kind of detached from the job she did have and doing what she had to do to stay employed there for the time being, but building something on the side, it has paid off for her. You can see how relaxed relaxed she is compared to people who, the last case we saw where someone who was working in that tech company, but they were stressed about potentially losing their job, or the person before that who's desperately searching for their next opportunity or developing some other skills. This woman has already developed that side income, so it makes the layoff process a bit easier for her. And like I say, when you have those layoff periods, it's very important to think your life through. It's not just losing your job. It's an opportunity to take a career break or a mini retirement or some time to reflect on your life. And particularly for Gen Z, because they're facing worse circumstances in the sense, the younger you are as an adult currently, the less stake you have in this society or this system, right? The less money you have saved up, the less things you own, the less property you own or assets or investments. And you have less and less ties to your job or your company or even your country, right? So it makes sense for them to take a break and really assess how they can maneuver through the next couple of years of their life to make it benefit them and not just become a tax slave and pay high taxes and pay their student loans off and not really reap any benefits from themselves. So those are all important things to consider, when you do take a break, and leverage those lack of responsibilities. If you want to travel, do some kind of life-changing opportunities you might have the chance to do abroad, I'd definitely recommend you do that rather than just get stuck into more and more deeper entrenchment into the 9-to-5 life.
How's the job search going? Not that great. At the end of last year, I was laid off, and so I panicked. I started applying to jobs, studying, working on my portfolio, and admittingly spent too much money on lattes. I did spend some time with friends, traveling, and with family, but I really couldn't be present, to be honest. And that's because I was so focused on finding a job. Literally all my time and energy and my worth was in whether or not I could find a job. And eventually that led me here, crying while eating my breakfast sandwich about a job I didn't get. And so I realized that was very unhealthy, and I took a step back just to go on a trip and enjoy myself, and not focus on a job. And if you're looking for a job, I know it's super tough, but I'm rooting for you, and you will find your next opportunity in the right timing, and you got this.
So, without going on about this, there is just a bit too much of like woman crying on the internet, like for sympathy. It's just a bit too much. There has to be a level of privacy, of decency in public spaces. I don't see what you have to gain really by like sympathy of total strangers. It just looks completely inappropriate sometimes. But this is important, right? And the reason why I'm focusing on this specific example is the mental health trauma that everyone does go through, not just women, also men, where you do question your self-worth. And in her case, she's kind of almost begging for attention and validation and caring or nurturing through followers on TikTok, which isn't really a good approach. But when you realize how disposable the companies that you work for see you, right? If they see you so disposable, you start questioning your self-worth. And I think there's two approaches you can take. You can get kind of depressed or unhappy about it, like she seems to be, or you can kind of reassess how the power structure works between you and your income sources. And if you develop, like I say, unique skill sets, you can leverage things more in your favor. Yeah, I understand some people are going to say in the comments, well, corporations have all the power, they can do what they want, and we're just kind of slaves to the system. I think that's one way of looking at it. And I think at a macro level, that's definitely the case when you consider millions of people in a country. But at an individual level, it's important to really think about how you can kind of make yourself somewhat unique to the marketplace, to less vulnerable to these type of situations, right? Another thing I'd say is when it comes to spending your time to relax during your layoff time period, it makes sense to spend time in nature. You might have inexpensive travel that you might have access to, maybe to your home country, which might be a lower cost of living country, maybe some time with family members and friends. That's all good. There's loads of ways to spend your time relaxing in a way that doesn't blow your budget. You know, things that are a bit of a waste, particularly during a layoff time period, would be expensive holidays, lattes, expensive hobbies. They're not the answer. They're like escapism, even though some level of breaks from your job search is a good idea. See perhaps the most crazy scenario of irresponsible living in a sense.
Moved to Chicago back in August after graduating college and landing my first ever big girl job, but needless to say, I am now unemployed, so spend a day with me as a 23-year-old living in the city who is currently jobless. Being unemployed, I have virtually no real responsibilities, so getting myself to wake up has been a struggle. Like, how am I supposed to wake up when I have nothing to do? So the only way I've been getting myself up is scheduling early morning workout classes, and that's exactly what I'm getting ready for today. Living in Chicago during the wintertime is criminal. Like, I know I signed a lease to be here, but I hate this, and I want to cry. So I picked out the brightest workout set that I could find because I'm cosplaying that it's a bright summer day and I'm about to go on a run outside, but in reality I just bundled up in the biggest coat I have and I'm trying not to freeze my ass off walking 50 feet to my car. You guys know I've been loving Orange Theory workout classes. Not only does it get my day going, but I love the atmosphere of every class. I look forward to seeing the coaches who I genuinely feel like I have a special bond with now. We chat about life and workout goals and everything, and honestly just working out with other people really motivates me to push myself even if I want to be wrapped up in my warm sheets in bed right now. Orange Theory is great because you can track all your results and really see progress after every class. Let's be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, but I'm just going to keep using the excuse that I'm in my 20s and this is the time to take risks and try new things. And right now, this is what a productive morning in my life looks like.
So, firstly, there's lots of childish behaviors here. This is called wasting your layoff time period, which can be productive, can be involving a lot of personal growth and finding other income sources or your next job, right? She's kind of expressing this kind of childish behavior without adult responsibilities. And the question is, who's paying her bills right now? Of course, she might have a layoff package, some credit card funding, but I think more likely than not, it could be a family member or boyfriend. And some of the language she uses just shows the immaturity, you know, having a big girl job, which is like a normal corporate job, I'd assume. And then also mentioning that she can't be motivated to wake herself up only to go to this particular workout class. And the thing is, shouldn't she be motivated by being unemployed, being homeless, not being able to make a living, right? And also she mentioned stuff like, let's be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. It's like there's a complete lack of accountability. This type of zero accountability is typically where men would step in and pick up the bill or show her the way or provide the direction or leadership that she's looking for so she can live a chill life, right? But you know, some people like this are going to really crash and burn hard because they're going to realize no one's going to pick up the tab for them and their reckless life decisions. And also, what's quite interesting here about this gym visit she has here, where she mentions feeling a sense of atmosphere and community. This is more the traditional environment that people are looking for, but unfortunately, this kind of doesn't exist in real life in a sense. It's almost only in a manufactured environment, maybe when you have a gym class and you know people there. In the real world, and this is kind of brutal, because of individualism, you're kind of on your own and finding your own way of surviving, right? This kind of superficial friendships you might have, they're not really going to last the test of time when you're really looking for survival, which is looking for your next job, right? And she mentions taking risks and trying new things, but what does she mean by that? Trying new workout classes. What risk is she taking? You know, she's not like some of the other examples we've seen where they're developing their own income sources online, like the other woman on TikTok, or the other lady who was learning how to do video editing with DaVinci Resolve. So she's not really making the most of that opportunity of being able to, basically receive a significant amount of money in your layoff package, for example, where you can live for 4 to 6 months or more and look for your next job opportunity and develop some relevant skills while focusing on your health, right? This just seems quite irresponsible use of your time. So I hope you found that helpful in terms of learning what different approaches you can take to your layoff time period and how you can use it productively without getting too stressed about searching for a job. You can still search for a job and look out for your health and develop other skills and spend time kind of relaxing and rejuvenating yourself, maybe with friends and family or spending time in nature. Now, if you're new to the channel, I've worked in the finance industry for over 10 years at companies such as Goldman's and Morgan Stanley. I offer a career advice service. There is a link in the description if you want to speak with me directly. Let me know in the comments how you would deal with any type of longer term unemployment, whether it's 6 months or 12 months. Would you spend it in a similar way as this or spend it quite differently? I'll look out for your comments and what you have to say about this. There are 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, and I'll see you next time.